You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Well, guys, we need to talk about Kendrick Perkins here yet again in this video. I believe that Kendrick Perkins is probably the dumbest person on ESPN. This man played in the NBA. He was a champion, but this man is not good at his job whatsoever. And ESPN is always trying to race bait all the time. Stephen A does it quite a bit. But what Kendrick Perkins actually suggested, that the NBA MVP voters are pretty much racist because they have voted for Nikola Jokic, doesn't make any sense. Is that the worst take in NBA or in sports media history? Let us know that in the comments below. Well, JJ Redick actually did fire back yesterday. We did a video on that, and boy, that was an epic takedown by JJ Redick. Now, it's kind of funny, guys, that Kendrick Perkins actually brought up, the number of white players that actually won the MVP since 1990. Because he stopped there and he was actually complaining about, Jokic not being in the top 10 in scoring in the NBA. But I said it before, guys, the score numbers are greatly inflated. The man's averaging like 25 points per game, and he's not in the top 10. You got like 7-8 guys actually averaging over like 28 points. It's insane. In another era, 25 points per game, that would be like top 5 in the NBA. Easily right there. But the numbers are greatly inflated, and Jokic is shooting like 63% from the field, and he's averaging a triple-double. I thought the NBA loved triple-doubles. Remember, they gave the MVP to Russell Westbrook. Remember that. But he stopped in 1990 because his narrative would completely break apart. Because before that, Magic Johnson had won two MVPs, wasn't top 10 in scoring. Magic Johnson was never known as a scorer. He was a facilitator. He was the assist man. He was the greatest point guard in NBA history. And since 1990, guess what? There's only been 3 white guys to actually win the MVP. Dirk, Steve Nash, and Jokic, who's probably going to end up winning his 3rd straight MVP. And Kendrick Perkins actually had a problem with that. Now, if these MVP voters are so racist, why have they voted like on a 90% clip for black players actually winning the MVP? Doesn't make any sense. What he said holds no water. So that brings us to Hall of Famer in 1993 MVP, Charles Barkley. You guys can see here right here on Fox News. Charles Barkley rips Kendrick Perkins for suggesting racial bias plays role in MVP voting. So let's get into this and read what Sir Charles had to say. And of course, Barkley is Rhodes' favorite NBA player of all time. Basketball Hall of Famer Charles Barkley ripped Kendrick Perkins' suggestion that race plays a role in NBA MVP voting when it comes to Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic. Barkley talked about Perkins' remarks on Denver's Altitude Sports Radio with Vic Lombardi, Mark Moser, and Brett Kane. The former Phoenix Suns star said he didn't believe Jokic was worried about what pundits were saying about him on ESPN's First Take. To begin with, I highly doubt that Jokic actually watches First Take. He probably knows exactly what Kendrick Perkins actually said, but I'm pretty sure he's probably actually busy, working on his craft, at 9, 10 in the morning when First Take is on. He's probably not actually watching First Take. Perkins suggested there is a racial bias since 3 players since 1990 have won an MVP despite being outside the top 10 in points per game. Jokic in his first MVP campaign in 2020 and 2021, Dirk 2006 and 7, and Steve Nash 2004, 5, and 2005, 6. All 3 are white. Quote, this is what Barkley says. I'm pretty sure he don't give a damn about these idiots talking about him on TV either, Barkley said. If I know the Joker, he probably just got out of bed. probably got a good night's sleep. The Nuggets, they won a tough game last night. Mike Malone probably should have given them the day off and let them sleep in the day after that game. I'm pretty sure he's not in for all this silliness. You can't tell me because the numbers don't make sense. Does he know how many voters are white actually, or did he pull 80% out his ass? My point is, if only five white guys have been MVP in the last 30 years, that makes 0 sense. His argument, 0 sense, because if that was the case, we'd have a lot more white MVPs. Wouldn't the numbers be that way? Way worse? He called Perkins' take one of the dumbest or one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Yeah. And Barkley actually brings up five MVPs because remember, Steve Nash actually won back-to-back. Jokic is back-to-back, and Dirk. So it's been 3 white guys, but 2 of those guys actually won back-to-back. And Jokic is probably going to win 3 straight, which would put him in rarefied air right there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's Wilt Chamberlain and is it Bill Russell? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure, but still, that would be a tremendous accomplishment. But Barkley goes on, quote, I always talk about ESPN disease, the 1993 MVP added. A lot of these guys, when they get on TV and stuff, they're like, well, I'm on ESPN. I got to say something provocative. And you know, the thing about it, you're always going to get some fools out there. You guys probably get some fools calling and agreeing with him. That's the thing that bothers me at times. I can promise you this. I've never said anything on television just to get clicks. That don't mean I've been right or wrong, whatever. But I've never said anything like, well, I know people are going to react and go crazy. Let me say this. Now, Barkley has always been known to be a straight shooter. Now, of course, since George Floyd, he says some crazy stuff. But for the most part, Charles Barkley has always kept it real. But he goes on, quote, and this is what bothers me also. Man, race is such a touchy subject because very few people have a pure heart. We could talk about race as much as you want to, as long as you're going to be fair and honest. But to slander this man, Jokic, in this situation is just total BS. Yeah, Barkley is absolutely right. He is right on the money. I completely agree with his take on this. I mean, what Perkins said holds no weight whatsoever. If the voters were so racist, why are they voting for pretty much all black guys since 1990? And if you want to go back to the 80s also, it was mostly all black guys. Now, of course, Larry Bird won MVPs also, but Magic did, Kareem did. I mean, it doesn't hold any weight. If you want to go back, 50 years, the vast majority of all MVPs have actually been black. I mean, I can probably hand count since 1970. I'm probably going to miss a few people. I know, not Kareem. Kareem is black, but I'm talking about white players that are actually won MVP. We already know the guys before 1990. Let's go back before that. Larry Bird won 3 that I can think of. Bill Walton was an MVP. And wow, is that it? Is that it right there? That's probably it right there. I mean, I could be mistaken because those are the only 2 guys that actually come to mind right there. If I'm wrong, let me know. That Jerry West was an MVP, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken, I believe that he was. I don't know if that was necessarily in the 70s, but in the 60s when he played, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not too many white guys, but for Kendrick Perkins to actually suggest that the voters are racist, utterly ridiculous. So Charles Barkley, right on the money with this. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and white sports fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.